Carl Panzram. The unrepentant killer Carl Panzram is one of the most infamous and sadistic serial killers in American history, known for his violent crimes, deep hatred for humanity, and complete lack of remorse. Over the course of his life, Panzram claimed to have committed more than 21 murders, countless rapes, and a series of arsons, burglaries, and other violent crimes across the United States and around the world. His autobiography, written while in prison, provides a chilling glimpse into the mind of a man who harbored a deep desire to inflict pain and suffering on others. Early life and descent into violence. Carl Panzram was born on June 28, 1891, in East Grand Forks, Minnesota, to a poor farming family. His childhood was marked by abuse, neglect, and a troubled home life. From an early age, Panzram developed a rebellious streak, frequently getting into trouble and committing petty crimes. By the time he was 11, he had been sent to a reform school, where he was brutally beaten and sexually abused by the staff. These early experiences of violence and abuse shaped Panzram's worldview, and he developed an intense hatred for society and authority figures. In his autobiography, Panzram described how the harsh treatment he endured at reform school taught him to embrace cruelty and violence as a means of survival. By the time he was in his early teens, Panzram had become a hardened criminal. He frequently ran away from home, lived as a drifter, and spent much of his adolescence in and out of juvenile detention centers. His time in these institutions only reinforced his hatred for society, as he was often subjected to further abuse and violence. A life of crime. As an adult, Panzram embarked on a life of crime that spanned multiple states, and even international borders. He committed his first known murder in 1911 after breaking into the home of former U.S. President William Howard Taft and stealing a gun. Over the next 2 decades, Panzram would go on to commit a string of violent crimes, including burglaries, rapes, and murders. Panzram's criminal career took him across the United States, from coast to coast, and even beyond. He traveled to Africa, where he claimed to have killed multiple men and fed their bodies to crocodiles. In one of his most notorious crimes, Panzram stole a yacht in New York City and sailed to Angola, where he lured men aboard, murdered them, and dumped their bodies into the sea. Panzram's sexual violence was a recurring feature of his crimes. He frequently raped men, particularly young boys, and admitted to finding pleasure in their suffering. In his own words, Panzram described his motivations for committing these horrific acts. Panzram's crimes were driven not by greed or revenge but by a deep-seated desire to inflict pain and destruction on others. He viewed life as a brutal struggle for survival and saw violence as the only means of asserting power over others. Arrests and prison. Throughout his life, Panzram was arrested numerous times for various crimes, but he always managed to escape or evade long-term imprisonment. His ability to charm and manipulate people, combined with his ruthless nature, allowed him to continue his life of violence for years. In 1928, Panzram was arrested in Washington, D.C., for burglary. During his time in custody, he confessed to numerous murders, rapes, and other violent crimes. His confessions were chilling in their lack of remorse. Panzram proudly admitted to killing more than 21 people and sexually assaulting over 1,000 boys and men. He viewed his violent acts as a form of revenge against a world he believed had wronged him. While in prison, Panzram wrote his autobiography, a disturbing and candid account of his life of crime and violence. In his writings, he expressed his complete disdain for humanity and his desire to continue killing. He also described the abuse he suffered as a child and how it had shaped him into the man he had become. In one of his most infamous quotes, Panzram wrote, "Final arrest and execution." Carl Panzram's violent spree finally came to an end in 1929 when he was convicted of murder and sentenced to death. During his time on death row at Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary, Panzram continued to express his hatred for humanity and his desire to die. He refused to appeal his sentence, stating that he would kill again if given the chance. On September 5, 1930, Carl Panzram was executed by hanging. His last words were a final expression of defiance. Panzram's execution marked the end of a violent life, but his legacy of cruelty and sadism has continued to captivate true crime enthusiasts and criminologists alike. Legacy and psychological insights. Carl Panzram's life and crimes are often cited as an example of the effects of severe childhood trauma and abuse on the development of violent behavior. His complete lack of remorse, combined with his desire to inflict pain and suffering, makes him one of the most disturbing figures in criminal history. Panzram's autobiography, which he wrote while on death row, offers a rare glimpse into the mind of a serial killer who was fully aware of his violent tendencies and took pride in his ability to cause harm. His writings have been studied by psychologists, criminologists, and scholars seeking to understand the factors that contribute to the creation of violent individuals like Panzram. This true story of Carl Panzram, the unrepentant killer, is a chilling account of one of the most sadistic criminals in American history. His life of violence, combined with his deep hatred for humanity, left a trail of death and destruction.